The dust hadn't settled from the last rider who'd blown through Reed Rock Canyon when Cole Hardin felt the trouble coming. Not the kind you see. The kind you feel behind your back teeth. He'd been standing outside the Half Moon Saloon with a cold cup of coffee going warm in his hand when the wagon rolled in one horse, half a wheel cracked, and a woman driving it like she was racing death itself across the flats. She yanked the reins hard, and the horse screamed to a stop 10 feet from the water trough. The wagon lurched. A crate slid off the back and split open on the ground, scattering dried herbs, small leather pouches, and a clay pot that survived only because it landed on a burlap sack. Cole didn't move, he watched. The woman jumped down before the dust cleared. She was wearing trail clothes, practical, worn at the knees, a battered hat she'd clearly owned for a decade. Her boots hit the ground hard, and she was already scanning the street the moment she landed, not looking at the buildings, looking at the people near them. That told Cole plenty. She spotted him the way people spot someone who isn't pretending not to look. Direct, no hesitation. She crossed the distance between them in 11 long strides. "You the marshal?" she asked. "Deputy," he said. "Close enough." She pulled a folded paper from inside her vest and pressed it against his chest. "There are 4 men 2 days behind me. They've been behind me since Santa Fe. I need a place to stay that isn't the hotel because they'll check the hotel first." Cole took the paper, didn't unfold it yet. "Who are you?" "Nora Calloway. I carry medicines and supplies for Apache settlements between here and the Rio Grande. The men following me are not lawmen, whatever they told anyone along the way." He unfolded the paper then. It was a letter with a territorial government seal at the top, vouching for one Nora Calloway as a licensed trade agent operating under federal protection. The signature at the bottom belonged to a man Cole had met twice, a man not known for putting his name on things lightly. Cole folded it back and handed it over. "How far back exactly?" he asked. "They were camped at the Arroyo crossing when I left before dawn. That's maybe 40 miles. 2 days riding easy," he said. 1 day pushing hard." "They'll push hard," she said. "They want what's in that wagon." He looked at the wagon. The remaining crates were roped down. Nothing about it looked remarkable, but he'd learned a long time ago that remarkable things rarely looked it. "Pete," he called toward the livery. A boy of about 14 appeared in the doorway. "Yes, sir." "Take Miss Calloway's wagon around back of the stable. Unhitch the horse, give him water and feed, and don't tell anyone what you're doing." Pete nodded like this was a perfectly normal instruction, and disappeared back inside to get moving. Cole looked at Nora Calloway. Her jaw was set. Her hands were steady, but her eyes had the particular kind of tired that doesn't come from riding hard. It comes from riding scared for too long. "You eaten today?" he asked. "Yesterday," she said. "Come on then." She didn't argue. That was the second thing that told Cole plenty about what kind of trouble she was in. A woman like Nora Calloway, and he could see she was the type who argued about everything on principle. Not arguing meant she was running on empty and knew it. He took her to Me's kitchen, 2 doors down from the saloon. Me herself was behind the counter, a broad woman with flour on her apron and an opinion about everything. "Beans and cornbread," Cole said, "and whatever's hot on the stove." Me looked at Nora the way she looked at every stranger, measuring, neutral, not unkind. "Sit down, honey. You look like you wrestled a cactus." Nora sat. She took her hat off and set it on the table beside her. Her hair was dark and cut short at the jaw, practical for trail life. There was a fresh cut along her left cheekbone, barely scabbed over. Cole sat across from her. "Tell me what they want." She looked at him steadily. "I was asked to carry something from an Apache elder to a federal contact in Albuquerque. Documents. Records of land treaty violations going back 15 years. Names, dates, amounts paid, who authorized what. The kind of records that could bring down 3 or 4 men in territorial government if they were ever delivered. Cole was quiet for a moment, and someone found out you were carrying them. Someone always finds out, she said. I've done this run 11 times in 4 years. This is the first time they've come after me personally. Because this time it's real enough to matter. She nodded once. Me set a bowl of beans and a thick slab of cornbread in front of Nora, along with a tin cup of coffee. Nora wrapped both hands around the cup first and just held it. The steam curled up. She closed her eyes for exactly 3 seconds. Then she opened them and started eating. Cole sat back and looked out the window at the street. Redrock Canyon had one main road, one saloon, one hotel, a general store, a livery, and Me's kitchen. It also had Deputy Cole Hardin, a part-time sheriff who was currently visiting his daughter in Tucson, and 4 walls of canyon rock that funneled anyone coming from the south straight down the main road. 4 men, 1 day away if they were pushing. He did the math quietly in his head and didn't like any of the answers he got. The documents, he said, where are they? You don't need to know that yet, she said between bites. Fair enough, he said. That was the thing people never expected from Cole Hardin. He knew when not to push. It was the rarest skill a man in his position could have, and he'd paid for it the hard way, through years of learning what happened when you pushed too soon. He'd figure out the rest. He always did. Outside, the canyon walls turned orange in the afternoon light. Somewhere up in the rocks, a hawk circled once and dropped out of sight. Cole finished his cold coffee and started thinking. The 4 men Nora Calloway was running from had names, though she hadn't given them yet. They had guns, that was certain. They had motivation, which was worse than guns, and they were 1 hard day's ride from Redrock Canyon. It was going to be a long night. Nora ate everything on the plate and didn't apologize for it. Cole respected that. He'd known too many people who performed not being hungry when they were starving, like admitting a need was the same as admitting a weakness. Nora Calloway didn't seem to operate that way. When she set the spoon down, she looked at him levelly. I need to know if you're going to help me or if you're going to decide this is too complicated and suggest I move on. I haven't suggested you move on, he said. Yet, he agreed. Tell me about the 4 men. She pulled a small notebook from her vest pocket, the same pocket she'd pulled the letter from. She opened it to a page near the back and slid it across the table. 4 names written in neat, careful handwriting. Beside each name, a note: bounty man, territory agent corrupt, hired gun known in Santa Fe, and beside the 4th name simply, dangerous. That 4th annotation, with nothing else to explain it, was the one that sat in Cole's mind and didn't move. The 4th one, he said, Glenn Doss. Yes, she said. I know that name. Most people in the territory do. Glenn Doss was not a bounty hunter or a hired gun in the traditional sense. He was a problem solver for people with money and no scruples. He'd been connected to 2 disappearances that Cole knew of personally, and probably more he didn't. He'd never been charged with anything. He was careful the way a man is careful when he understands the law well enough to stay 1 step outside it at all times. Doss doesn't ride with other men typically, Cole said. He does when the job is significant enough. She closed the notebook and returned it to her pocket. The documents I'm carrying would end careers, and not small careers. The kind of men who can have other men like Glenn Doss on a leash. Cole was quiet. The late afternoon light shifted through Me's front window and laid a gold stripe across the table between them. Where are you sleeping tonight? He asked. I was going to figure that out. My place has a back room, cot blanket door that locks from the inside. It's not the hotel. Nobody'll look there first. He paused. Or second. She looked at him with the particular calculation of a person who has learned to measure people fast and accurately. Whatever she measured, she seemed to find it acceptable. All right, she said. They walked to his place as the sun finished its drop behind the canyon rim and the sky went the color of a bruise healing. Cole's house was small, 3 rooms, clean, nothing unnecessary. The back room was exactly what he'd described. A cot, a blanket, a door with a solid bolt. Nora stepped inside, looked at the room and turned around. "Thank you." "There's a pitcher of water on the shelf," he said. "I'll be up front if anything changes." He pulled the door shut and went back to the main room. He sat in the chair by the window with his rifle across his knees and watched the dark canyon road. 3 hours passed. The town went quiet the way small towns do, not silent, just muffled. A dog somewhere. The distant clink from the saloon. Wind moving through the canyon mouth in low, drawn-out sighs. At some point past midnight, Cole heard the back room door open. He didn't turn around. He heard soft footsteps, and then Nora appeared at the edge of his vision, wrapped in the blanket from the cot, her boots left behind, her hair loose. She'd clearly been awake the whole time. She crossed the room and sat on the floor beside the wood stove, pulling the blanket tighter. Not near him, not asking anything, just not willing to be alone in a locked room while her brain ran at full speed. Cole said nothing. He went back to watching the road. After a while she spoke. "My mother was half Apache, Mescalero. She lived between 2 worlds her whole life and was fully accepted by neither, a beat. I do this work because she couldn't." Cole didn't respond, not because he didn't hear, because she hadn't asked him to. They sat like that for the rest of the night, 2 people in a quiet room, watching for danger that was 1 hard day's ride away. The first light came gray and thin through the window. Nora stood, straightened the blanket, and went back to the room to get her boots. Cole stood, rolled his shoulders, and started on coffee. Neither of them mentioned the night. The morning came in cold. Cole had the coffee going before Nora reappeared from the back room, fully dressed, hat on, the careful competence back in place like she'd put it on along with her boots. She took the cup he offered and drank it standing, looking out the window at the empty main road. "They could be here by afternoon," she said. "Could be," Cole agreed, "if they rode through the night." Das would. Cole had already thought about that. He'd spent the pre-dawn hours working through the problem the way he worked through every problem, not rushing toward a solution but circling it, looking at every side, finding where it was weak. Redrock Canyon was defensible if you knew the terrain. 1 road in from the south, the canyon walls on both sides, and if you got a man up on the east ridge with a clear line of sight, you'd see 4 riders coming from 2 miles out. The problem was Cole was currently 1 man. "I need to know where the documents are," he said. Nora set down the cup. She reached into her boot, the right one, heel side, and withdrew a flat leather case, no wider than 2 fingers, wrapped tight. She set it on the table between them. Cole looked at it but didn't pick it up. "Sewn into the lining when I left Santa Fe," she said. "Worn against my leg for 4 days. Anyone who searched the wagon, searched my bags, searched the crates, they'd find nothing." "Smart," he said. "Necessary," she corrected. He looked at her. "I'm going to need a couple of people I trust, 1 up on the east ridge, 1 watching the south road from the livery roof. That leaves me on the street. And me. You stay in here with the door bolted until I say otherwise." She didn't like that. He could see it move through her expression like a weather change, but she was practical enough to understand the logic. "If something goes wrong," she said, "take the back window. There's a path behind the house that runs up through the rocks to the old mine trail. Follow it north for 3 miles and you'll hit the main territorial road. Flag down anything moving." She looked at the leather case on the table. "Should I take it?" "Keep it in your boot," he said. "Same as always." She picked it up and tucked it back where it came from, efficient and practiced. Cole went to find his 2 people. The first was Cal Dupree, a retired Army sergeant who now ran the general store, kept a rifle behind the counter, and had a personal score to settle with men like Glenn Doss that he'd never talked about openly but that Cole understood. Cal agreed without asking many questions. That was why Cole had gone to him first. The second was a young woman named Violet Shaw, 22 years old and widely underestimated by everyone in Rock Canyon except Cole, who'd seen her shoot a rattlesnake off a fence post at 60 yards with a pistol while talking to someone else. Violet operated the telegraph office and had no official standing as a law officer, but she had the East Ridge essentially memorized, and she moved through the canyon rocks like she'd been born in them. She agreed immediately and was already pulling on her coat before Cole finished asking. By mid-morning, Cal was on the livery roof with a long rifle and a canteen. Violet was gone, up into the rocks somewhere, visible to no one, with a clear line of sight for 2 miles south. Cole walked the main street twice, slowly. He checked on Nora. Her door was bolted, which meant she was following instructions, which was a relief. He went back to his position near the water trough and waited. The canyon had a way of holding sound. Wind moved through it in patterns, and if you knew the patterns, a disruption was easy to notice. Cole had lived here 4 years. He knew every pattern. At 2 in the afternoon, he heard the horses. 4 sets of hooves. Steady pace, not galloping, men who were confident, not chasing. Men who believed they had the advantage of number and surprise. They came around the South Bend and into the main road of Rock Canyon, one behind the other, spreading out as the road widened. Ordinary-looking men at first glance. Nothing on them that said hired trouble. That was the point. The fourth one, the one who rode in last and easiest, Cole recognized from a wanted notice he'd studied a year ago. Lean, unhurried, wearing a flat-brimmed hat. Glenn Doss looked like a man who had never once in his life needed to rush. Cole stood at the center of the street. Doss pulled his horse to a stop 40 feet away. The other 3 fanned out slightly without being told. Practiced. "Afternoon," Doss said pleasantly. "Afternoon," Cole said. "Small town," Doss observed, looking around without appearing to look around. "Small enough," Cole said. "We're looking for a woman. Dark hair, short cut, traveling alone. Came through here yesterday most likely." "Lots of people come through," Cole said. "I don't catalog them." Doss smiled. It didn't reach anywhere near his eyes. "This one you'd remember." On the livery roof, Cole knew, Cal Dupree had a rifle aimed at the man on Doss's left. And somewhere up in the East Ridge rocks, Violet Shaw had already chosen her angle. "I'm Deputy Cole Hardin," Cole said. "And unless you've got paper that says you have official business here, I'm going to ask you to water your horses and move on." Doss looked at him for a moment. Then he looked at the buildings around them. He was counting, looking for what Cole had placed where. A man like Doss always counted. "We'll water the horses," Doss said finally. "Trough's right there," Cole said. Doss turned his horse toward the trough. His 3 men followed. Nobody dismounted. It wasn't over. Cole understood that perfectly. This was just the pause before it changed shape. He kept his hand near his holster, and his eyes on Glenn Doss's hands. The canyon walls held the afternoon heat and didn't give any of it back. Doss let his horse drink for exactly the right amount of time. Not too long, not short enough to seem rushed. Every movement the man made was calibrated. Cole watched it and kept his breathing even, because an unsteady breath before a confrontation was the first thing that got you killed. Doss's 3 men had spread to the width of the street, not obviously, just naturally, the way a hand opens before it grabs something. The one on the far left had his thumb hooked near his belt. The one in the middle kept glancing at the saloon doors. The third was watching Cole the way a dog watches a stranger, not aggressive, just measuring. "You seem like a reasonable man," Doss said, still watching his horse drink. "I try," Cole said. "So you'll understand this is just business. The woman we're looking for made off with property that doesn't belong to her. Documents, private documents. Their owner wants them back. Then her owner should file a civil complaint with the territorial court, Cole said. I can give you the address. Das looked over at him, that almost smile again. You know how slow courts are. I do, Cole said, but they exist for a reason. The reason being that most disputes don't involve a one-day trail, and 4 men who'd rather solve this quietly. Quietly is a funny word, Cole said. For 4 armed men riding into a town they've never been to, looking for a woman traveling alone. Something shifted in Das's posture, almost nothing. Cole caught it. On the livery roof, Carl Dupree was still. Violet Shaw in the rocks had likely already accounted for wind and distance and made her choice of target. We'll search the buildings, Das said, no longer asking. No, Cole said, you won't. Das finally turned and looked at him fully. He had pale eyes that were almost colorless in the afternoon light. There are 4 of us, deputy. And one of your men has had a rifle on him from the livery roof for the last 6 minutes, Cole said. And there's a woman up in those East Ridge rocks who could put a round through your hat at this distance without trying hard. So the way I count, you have 1 of me on the street and 2 more you can't see. That's 3 to your 4, and 3 people who know this canyon to 4 who don't. Cole let that sit for a moment. The math doesn't favor you the way it did when you rode in. The man on the far left shifted. Cal Dupree's rifle would have tracked that movement. Das was quiet for a long moment. He was the kind of man who only went forward when the numbers worked. Cole was watching him recalculate. This is temporary, Das said. Most things are, Cole agreed. The woman has something that belongs to powerful people. Those people have long patience. Write it in a letter, Cole said. Address it to the territorial marshal's office. Include your real name if you're feeling confident. Something moved in Das's expression. Not quite anger, closer to the recognition of a setback. A man like Das filed that away, adjusted his approach, and waited. Cole knew Das would be back, not today, not with the numbers wrong, but this wasn't finished. Das clicked to his horse and pulled the animal back from the trough. His 3 men reformed around him without a word spoken. Pleasant town, Das said. We like it, Cole said. They rode south, back through the canyon mouth. 4 sets of hooves on dry, packed dirt, sound bouncing off the walls until it faded to nothing. Cole didn't move until the sound was fully gone. Cal appeared at the edge of the livery roof and looked down. They coming back? Not today, Cole said. Violet appeared from somewhere in the rocks to the east, descending the path with the ease of long familiarity. She had her pistol holstered, her expression thoughtful. Das, she said, I recognized him from a notice 2 years ago. Yes, Cole said. He's not done. No, Cole said, he's not. He turned and walked back toward his house. The bolt on Nora's door was still thrown. He knocked twice, the way he'd told her he would. The bolt slid back. Nora opened the door and read his face before he said anything. They left. For now, he said. She nodded slowly. Das. Yes. He won't let it go, she said. I know. Cole looked at her. How fast can you reach Albuquerque if you have a good horse, a clear road, and a head start? She thought about it. 4 days, maybe 3.5 pushing. The territorial marshal owes me a favor, Cole said. Not a big one, but enough to get a message sent tonight by wire and have 2 federal riders meet you at the halfway point if you leave before dawn. Nora was quiet. She looked at the leather case in her boot, then back at him. Why? The question wasn't ungrateful. It was genuine. She'd been doing this work long enough to know that help from strangers usually had a shape to it, a thing it wanted in return. Cole thought about how to answer that. He wasn't a man who explained himself easily. My mother grew up on the Mescalero reservation, he said. She left when she was 17 and spent the rest of her life being told she'd left the only place she belonged. Those documents you're carrying there for people who were told the same thing. Nora looked at him for a long moment without speaking. "I'll leave before dawn," she said. The wired message went out from Violet's telegraph office at 9 in the evening. Cole kept the wording short, professional, direct, the kind of communication that got read as legitimate because it asked for exactly one specific thing and explained exactly why. Violet sent it herself and came back with a confirmation reply within the hour. 2 federal riders would meet Nora Calloway at the Rio Puico crossing, 2 days north of Albuquerque, in 5 days' time. The math worked. Cole spent the night hours making preparations. He arranged a horse from Cal Dupree, not Nora's trail-worn animal but a fresh, strong mare that Cal kept for situations requiring discretion, which had happened twice before in Cal's accounting. He packed a set of saddlebags with dried meat, hard biscuits, a full canteen, extra ammunition, and a small medical kit. He wrote a note to the territorial marshal's office in Albuquerque, explaining the situation in broad terms and asking that Nora Calloway be given official escort upon arrival. He left nothing to chance that he could avoid leaving to chance. Nora came out of the back room at 3 in the morning without being called. She had her hat on and her bags packed, which told Cole she'd spent the night hours the same way he had, preparing rather than sleeping. She looked at the saddlebags on the table. "You didn't have to do all that." "I know," he said. She picked up the bags without further comment and slung them over her shoulder. Practical, no ceremony. They went to the livery quietly, using the back path. Pete, the stable boy, was asleep on a hay bale and didn't wake. Cole had already settled the horse and checked all 4 shoes 2 hours ago. The mare stood patient and ready. Nora checked the cinch, adjusted the left stirrup, and mounted with the ease of someone who had spent more years in a saddle than out of one. She settled, then looked down at Cole. "The men who are after me," she said, "Das specifically, if he circles back and decides to make this personal." "I've handled personal before," Cole said. "I believe you," she said, and she meant it, which was different from just saying it. "When this reaches Albuquerque, when it goes to people who can use it, it's going to make noise, real noise, the kind that rattles cages all the way back to Santa Fe." "That's the idea," Cole said. "They'll know the documents came through this canyon," she said. "They'll know someone here helped." "They already know," Cole said. "Das isn't stupid. So you've put yourself in the middle of this." "I was already in the middle of it when you rode your wagon into my street," he said. Nora looked at him from the saddle. In the pre-dawn dark, her expression was unreadable in most of its parts, but not all of them. "I'll send word when I reach Albuquerque." "I'd appreciate that," he said. She turned the horse's head north and touched her heels lightly to the mare's flanks. The animal moved out of the livery at a quiet walk, stepping carefully through the dark canyon road. Cole watched until the sound faded. Then he stood alone in the livery doorway with the cold pre-dawn air coming down through the canyon, the stars going pale at the eastern edges of the sky, and the quiet that follows when something that mattered has moved on without being fully resolved. He walked back to his house, poured the last of the night's coffee into a cup and sat by the window. Glen Das was 2 hours south, camped somewhere he thought was out of sight. Cole had a fair idea of the spot, a dry wash with rock cover that looked perfect to someone who didn't know the canyon and leaked sound like a sieve to someone who did. Das would be back. Not today. Maybe not for a week. But the kind of man who gets turned around by 3 people, and a bluff doesn't let that sit. Cole would be ready. He always found a way to be ready. The sky went from black to gray to the faint underwater blue that happens just before the sun arrives. Somewhere in the distance, a bird started up, the first one, its call bouncing clean off the canyon walls. 4 days until Nora Calloway reached the Rio Puico crossing. 5 days until the federal riders made contact. Then the documents would go where they needed to go, and the people named in them would feel the ground shift under their comfortable lives. It wouldn't fix everything, it never did, but it would fix something. Cole Hardin sat by the window and watched the light change. He had work to do, and Redrock Canyon had a way of making sure you did it.